The Mets' 11-game home winning streak came to an end, but all in all, a pretty successful return to the big leagues for Brian Bannister.
Yeah, Brian Bannister did a good job last night. He did look a little nervous early, gave up a couple of runs and 3 straight hits to open up the ball game. Then a 2-run home run to Ryan Howard, who's been doing it to every National League pitcher. But after that, 3 scoreless frames, went 6 innings, gave up 4 runs. But really, it was the Philadelphia bullpen that really decided that game, 4 scoreless innings.
You mentioned Ryan Howard homered, Carlos Beltran homered as well. Albert Pujols was here earlier in the week, and those guys have kind of joined the battle for the National League MVP race.
Well, you know what happens? Guys get lost in MVP race because their team is not in the pennant race. Well, no longer for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Ryan Howard, 45 home runs, 117 RBIs, is firmly entrenched in that race. Carlos Beltran has been the best player on the best team all summer long. Big hits, walk-off home runs, anything you'd want out of the MVP. And then Albert Pujols, who is a perennial MVP candidate every single year. He won it in 05. He showed the Mets what kind of power he had when the Cardinals just visited the last 3 days. So Albert Pujols, Carlos Beltran, and Ryan Howard, they're the 3 in that race.
And here's how the numbers stack up so far, with Howard leading the league in home runs and runs batted in, Pujols leading in slugging percentage, and Beltran playing for the best team. And that's got to count for something. And then you have another guy who kind of works into that mix as well in Jose Reyes, who doesn't have the power numbers, but is the igniter for the best team in the league.
Yeah, and he has a chance, if he continues the way he has, to be a 300 hitter, 20 triples. He has over 20 doubles. He could maybe have 20 home runs, 80 RBIs. His on-base percentage is 50 points higher than it was last year. Reyes has been the person that has got on base, and it seems like every time he gets on, he scores a run for the Mets. He's probably going to break the Mets individual record for that.
Reyes already with 54 stolen bases on the year. It looks like he might be poised to set the Mets club record in that category as well. So it's the Mets and the Phillies tonight. The Phillies are red hot as they try to work their way back into the wild card race. We'll take a look at tonight's pitching matchup as the Mets will roll out their 13th different starter of the year when we come back. Well, the rain is holding off in New York tonight. It's been a murky weekend, but the Mets got the game in last night after a half-hour rain delay, and everything looks good to go tonight as Oliver Perez makes his Mets debut tonight. As we check out the pitching matchup brought to you by Budweiser, this year is beer. Ron, 2 years ago, Oliver Perez was as coveted a young pitcher as there was in baseball, but his stock has fallen.
Yeah, it was his first full year in the big leagues. He went 12-10, had 239 punch-outs, only 81 walks, and he was as nasty a left-hander as there's ever been in baseball. Now, he's not there. He really has fallen through the cracks. Last year had an injury-riddled season. He even took some starts off because of mechanics, and that's always been his problem, really establishing some kind of, decorum with his mechanics.
Now the question is, what have the Mets been able to do with him in a short period of time? Because you look at his last 2 starts in Norfolk, and it looked like he was getting his act together.
Yeah, they're trying to simplify things, I think, for him, and not have so much movement in his arms and legs, but it's a catch-22, because one of the reasons he's so nasty is that he comes at you all arms and legs. So it'll be interesting to see what his mechanics look like tonight compared to the times that you and I have seen him pitch.
Meanwhile, Jon Lieber will pitch for the Phillies. Mets have seen him 3 times this year, and he's been great.
Jon Lieber's great. Announcers love Jon Lieber. Fielders love Jon Lieber. He just works so quickly. He's really just a fastball slider kind of pitcher, but he'll take some speed off of his fastball. He'll take a little off his slider. His strikeout pitch, if he has one, is a backdoor slider, but he wants to throw 2 or 3 pitches and wants you to swing and get out of there.
And as the Phillies have begun their climb in the National League wildcard race, and they're only a game and a half out, and even closer now because the Reds lost this afternoon, they can be a half game out in the wild card before this night is over. Lieber has really kicked it into gear and pitched his best baseball of the season.
He went through a long period of time where he was in trade rumors, so I think once those were gone, Lytle was traded to the Yankees, he settled down. He's pitched his best baseball since then.
So it's Oliver Perez for the Mets, Jon Lieber for the Phillies. Game 2 of the weekend series. Mets, who lost last night for the first time in a dozen home games, will try and get even in the series. First pitch coming up from Shea as we continue in just a moment. Oliver Perez turned 25 years old less than 2 weeks ago, and yet here's a guy trying to reclaim his career. As you check out the Phillies lineup, brought to you by your local Infinity dealer. Ryan Howard, 45 home runs, taking dead aim on the Phillies record of 48 set by Mike Schmidt. Jose Hernandez, traded from the Pirates, gets his first start for the Phillies. And Jimmy Rollins leads things off, and he takes a fastball wide from Oliver Perez.
Well, when you talk about Perez, 2-10 in the minor leagues was 2-5. That makes him 4-15 this year, so not a lot of positive affirmation. But they were really happy down in Norfolk with his progress. He started throwing more strikes, and that's always really been the key. His stuff is nasty enough to get batters out. It's whether he can get ahead of them.
And Rollins grounds one right at Jose Valentin, and Perez has his first out. So 1 out and nobody on for Shane Victorino.
The Nissan Mets defense, continuous great play by the defense. No errors in the last game.
Number 18,
the Nissan defense. A look at the defense brought to you by Nissan and your local Nissan dealers. Valentin at second base tonight. Chavez getting some steady work now in left field. Sean Green firmly entrenched in right.
There's Shane Victorino, who had 2 hits last night, including a triple. And just watching the first few pitches by Oliver Perez, you know, early in his career, people invoked the name Randy Johnson when they talked about Perez. So much movement, so much arms and legs, and you would think such a difficult delivery to repeat.
Oh, almost impossible to repeat. That's why they've done some things to try to make it easier for him. As you see, goes from getting Jimmy Rollins in 3 pitches to going 3-0 on the next hitter. But you watch arms and legs, everything coming at you. Big high leg kick really torques that body, twists his body also.
And he walks Victorino on 4 pitches. So a 1-out base runner for the Phillies. Now with the Pirates this year, 51 walks in 76 innings.
Second baseman, number 26, Shea Stadium.
You can see the movement, the high leg kick. That's really hard to repeat all the time. That's why you have to really admire El Duque. Orlando Hernandez was able to do that. But the simpler you can keep it, whether you're hitting or pitching, always makes it easier to repeat. That being said, I believe that it's more of a confidence problem for this young man.
There's Chase Utley, and LaDuca has to pull that one out of the dirt.
You know, Gary, when you play for a bad team, and the Pirates are a bad team for a couple of years, you don't get a lot of wins. You start to doubt yourself. You start to do too much. You're compared to Randy Johnson, so you want to get a lot of strikeouts. You forget about how to pitch, and you end up throwing, and I think that's been his problem.
6 in a row out of the strike zone. Utley has hit very well against lefties all year. .331, better than he has hit against right-handers. And that makes the Phillies much less vulnerable to lefties than they would otherwise be. And he takes a strike. And you see higher average against left-handers. And the breaking ball misses, and it's 3-1.
See, there's the problem. 2-0, he threw the fastball down the middle, but his pitch to get over for 2-1 is another fastball. Came with a slider, and he has a nasty slider, but sometimes the nastier breaking pitch, the harder it is to throw behind in the count.
And he issues back-to-back walks to Victorino and Utley, and that'll bring up Ryan Howard with 2 men on. Well, Paul LaDuca is going to have a little meeting with Perez to see if he can get him calmed down before he takes on the league's leading home run hitter.
And also Jose Valentin is coming in, trying to calm him down. Remember Mitch Williams for the Philadelphia Phillies when he pitched in the World Series? How he used to fall when he let go of the pitch? Well, that happened right there to Oliver Perez, and that just tells you how much torque he's getting off that back leg.
So here is Howard, who hit his 45th home run last night, leads the league in home runs and RBIs in just his first full season in the big leagues. And Perez misses with a fastball, 1-0.
And I do have to say that crew chief Randy Marsh is behind the plate is not the best umpire to have for Oliver Perez. Randy Marsh is a solid, great umpire. He's been around a long time, but he tends to have a smaller strike zone.
Rick Peterson's going to visit the mound. Oliver Perez was called up by the Padres in 2002 before he even turned 21. And, you know, I was reading over his bio today and looking at some of the people that he's been compared to by his pitching coaches. How about Satchel Paige, Don Drysdale, Randy Johnson, John Candelaria. Now, you have all those things dropped on you before you're 21 years old. You'd think that at least has to have something to do with the fact that he struggled the way he has.
Well, there's a lesson for all you pitching coaches out there. Do not compare your stars to anyone else. Let them be a star in their own right.
Down to first base, Delgado will settle for the out at first, and that's the second out as the runners advance to second and third. So there's a big out for Oliver Perez.
The left fielder.
Now, among active pitchers, Oliver Perez in the top 5 in strikeouts per 9 innings, and look at the company he's keeping.
Strikeouts don't win games, though. That's the, Kerry Wood, of course, is the injuries in prior also.
Now here's Pat Burrell for his first at bat in this series. Burrell sat out last night, at least in part because he had an achy wrist, but back in there tonight. 35 career homers against the Mets, and Oliver Perez fits right in because Burrell's 4 for 10 with 3 home runs against him. And there's a strike, 1-1.
Wow.
That's an amazing number of home runs in just 7 seasons against one team. On 2-1, Burrell watches the slider, and it's a ball. 3-1. Perez thought he was going to get a strike there.
Well, he was looking in the dugout. Wanted to know where that pitch was. Slider. Randy Marsh probably called that for down in the strike zone.
So now it's 3-1 to Burrell with first base open. And another slider, and he gets this one over.
Well, that's the proverbial 3-1 slider. 2 outs with the base open.
Now you got Jose Hernandez in the on-deck circle, and clearly Burrell is the more dangerous hitter. And now the crowd trying to give a little support to Oliver Perez in his first inning as a Met. 3-2 to Burrell. Got a piece of the fastball. And that's the hardest one he's thrown at 94. Oliver.
Gary, you and I were talking. So people said that he's lost some of his fastball. Not so in this first inning.
Slider in there for a call, strike 3. And Perez with a big fist pump as he comes off the mound in the first inning. Burrell down looking, and Perez gets himself out of big-time trouble in his first inning as a Met. Jon Lieber takes the mound for the Phillies tonight. His 4th start against the Mets this year, and he was brilliant the last one, a 5-hit shutout in Philadelphia just 10 days ago. And Jose Reyes takes ball 1.
Yeah, don't blink or you might miss an inning when Jon Lieber's pitch.
He works at a very rapid pace. And driven to left center off the bat of Reyes toward the gap. That ball is on the warning track and up over the wall for a ground rule double. Reyes was already thinking triple, but he'll have to go back to second. 24th double of the year for Reyes.
Well, you know, you're going to get a pitch to hit from Jon Lieber almost every at-bat. It's whether you miss it or not, and Jose Reyes did not miss this one. Driving that ball to left center field. One hopping over the wall.
So the Mets trying to get off to a fast start against Lieber, who held them scoreless in his last start against them. And here's Loduca. Ball now 9th in the National League in batting with that .314 average. And he's hit in 5 straight games after a very brief lull. He has just been marvelous. And he drops a bunt foul. I haven't seen much of that from Loduca.
Usually in this spot, and you saw it yesterday, although he popped up to Ryan Howard. Usually in this spot, he tries to drive the ball to the right side. Well, 6-9 for Jon Lieber. He injured a groin in the middle of the season, was under those trade talks, but he's not a 6-9 pitcher. He's the kind of guy that you like to give the ball to. He works quickly, throws strikes.
Last 4 starts, 2-1, 1.76. And that includes 2 starts against the Mets over that span. He pitched a great game against the Mets here at Shea, retired 17 in a row, and then hurt himself with a throwing error that opened the door for a 3-run inning and wound up beating him. And Loduca fouls it off 1-2. Check out the Mets lineup, brought to you by your local Infinity dealer. Jose Valentin back in the lineup tonight after missing one last night. His second game since coming back from the hamstring. Otherwise, the regular lineup for the Mets as it has evolved. Andy Chavez still filling in left field. Jose Reyes with great numbers against Lieber. With that base hit, he's now 13 for 26. That's a .500 average. To the right side, great diving stop by Howard. That saved a double, but it advances Reyes to third. Well, Ryan Howard made a diving play to his right last night, and now he makes a diving play to his left.
You know, I talked to some of the Philly coaches. They say he has been fantastic in working really hard on his defense, and that's something that was a little, he was not a great fielder last year and the beginning of this year, but he is getting better, and this is as fine a play as you can make. Full out dive on that smash by Loduca.
So the Mets with a chance to get an early run. Infield back for Beltran, who has 106 RBIs. And he takes ball 1. Lieber is not really a strikeout pitcher. He's averaged 5.5 strikeouts per 9, but this, of course, is a spot where he'd be looking for a strikeout.
And if he does get ahead, watch out for that backdoor slider. That's how he usually gets his strikeouts to left-handed hitters.
Beltran drives it deep right field. That's gone. Home run number 200 for his career for Carlos Beltran. His 38th of the year. That ties his career high. And he gives the Mets a 2-0 lead. The MVP chants begin anew here at Shea. What a shot. And there's no telling where he's going to stop now that he's gotten to 38. 1-0 to Delgado.
Well, just a hanging slider right in the middle of the plate. You saw the catcher, Chris Coast, look down. No need to watch that one.
And Delgado fouls it away. 1-1. Now Beltran now with 38 home runs, 108 runs batted in. That also matches his career high for RBIs that he set his rookie season with Kansas City. So he's not only out to obliterate the Mets record book, but his own as well. He's only 3 away now from Todd Hundley's club record for home runs of 41. And only 16 RBIs away from the club record in that department, 124, held by Mike Piazza.
Those both are done.
Yep. You would certainly think, barring injury, that Beltran's going to hit those and go right on by. 3-1 now to Delgado. Into the shift, and Howard's got it. 2 away. Beltran moving up on that Mets single-season home run list, topped by Todd Hundley. Only 3 Mets have now hit more home runs in a season than Beltran's 38. He is just having a phenomenal second year as a Met. And Beltran, who had just 16 home runs last year, as David Wright takes ball one, has now hit 22 more home runs this year than last year. That is by far the largest improvement for any hitter from last year to this year. The next highest improvement in the big leagues this year belongs to Bill Hall of Milwaukee, who's hit 12 more than last year. And Beltran has 22 more. That's among players who had over 400 at-bats last season. So he is just obliterating his 2005 numbers. There you see the list.
Wow.
And it's the largest increase in Mets history from one year to the next. Wright lifts one to right field, and Jose Hernandez has got it. And so the inning comes to an end. But the Mets score first inning runs number 108 and 109 on the season as Beltran crashes his 200th career home run to get him off to the fast start. Second inning, Jose Hernandez leads off against Oliver Perez and takes a strike. Hernandez making his first start as a Philly. He was acquired on Tuesday in a cash deal from Pittsburgh, where he was playing only part-time. Gets the start against the lefty tonight, and the slider misses 1-1. Jose Hernandez now 33 years old, and he's kicked around the last few years. One and two the count.
Still has a lot of pop in his bat. I was watching him take batting practice, and he must have launched 10 to 12 home runs over the left field wall, so lots of power.
Always been a very high strikeout guy. And Perez almost got him there, but Hernandez keeps it alive. Oliver Perez, just 25 years old. He only turned 25 less than 2 weeks ago. On the inside corner, strike three call. Second strikeout for Perez. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Infinity, using the power of design to create dynamic, beautiful automobiles. By Verizon Online DSL, now at a great low price. By Dodge, you can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By Budweiser, bright, clean, crisp, pure. This is Budweiser. This is beer. By Chevrolet, announcing Chevy Sign and Drive. Visit your local Chevy dealers and leave your checkbook at home. And by Subway, introducing the play of the day, a regular 6-inch sandwich for only $2.99. Chris Coast, the Philadelphia catcher. He has been a remarkable story, a 33-year-old rookie who has torn it up. And he drives one to center. Beltran in. That's the second out. So Perez has retired the first two. Now, when Perez struck out Pat Burrell to end the first inning with two men in scoring position, he put on a little histrionic show.
Well, he's a very high-strung pitcher, very excitable, as you saw that fist pump and slapping the glove and running off the field. That at times is going to irritate the other team. Absolutely.
You would think, especially in the first inning of a game, if you're a starting pitcher.
You know, I hear what you're saying, and I get what you're saying. Like, I would not ever want my pitchers to do that, but I think he's an exception in that he's high-strung. He's excitable. That's part of what makes him a good pitcher, because he's, you know, he wants to, you know, he tries hard and all that. So for him, I would like to tone it down a little, absolutely. I think that running off the mound, slapping glove, nothing wrong with that. But showing up the other team after you strike out a guy just leads to bad blood.
He faced the Phillies early this season while a member of the Pirates, and got knocked out in the fourth inning. And the Phillies, you know, they've got to be thinking to themselves, oh, wait a second. That's not an appropriate thing to be doing. And you just wonder how it manifests itself if the Phillies indeed are annoyed.
The thing about Oliver Perez, though, when he has his good stuff, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's how good his stuff can be.
2-2 to Nunez. On the inside corner, strike three call. And a more subdued reaction this time by Perez. Takes the Turk Wendell leap. Perez off to a good start. 2-0 New York. Nothing like good eats at the ballpark.
He is just tearing up that chicken wing.
A lot of kids in the crowd tonight. Saturday night, rain holding off. Shawn Green leading off the home second, and he takes ball one from Jon Lieber. Third game as a Met for Shawn, 1 for 7 so far. It has been a bit of a whirlwind the last few days for Shawn Green. Popped up and coast, almost trips over his own mask, but he's got it. Jerry Grody always said you wait till the last possible moment before throwing that mask away so you don't trip over it. Well, Coast dropped it early, and he almost did trip.
Well, let's look at the defense. It's brought to you by Nissan, your local Nissan dealers. Victorino in center field tonight with Burrow in left. Jose Hernandez in right field, and Chris Coast, we talked about him a little bit, is the catcher tonight, the 33-year-old rookie.
Here's Valentine, who played 2 nights ago, got the night off last night, and back in the lineup tonight, coming back slowly from his hamstring tweak. And Lieber gets ahead of him. Down to Howard. And Lieber, who covers his position very well, gets over. 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on as we check out the Chevy upcoming schedule. One more game with the Phillies here on the WB11 tomorrow afternoon. And then the Mets hit the road for the thin air of Denver. 3 night games at Coors Field. And then they move on to Minute Maid Park in Houston for 3 over next weekend.
Well, I'm not going with you to Colorado, but I'll tell you what a beautiful ballpark that is, and beautiful place where it is too. You can walk. I love ballparks you can walk from the hotel to the ballpark.
Right at the edge of downtown Denver as Andy Chavez takes a strike. I've always loved Coors Field. I haven't necessarily liked the way baseball is played there, but now that it seems like it's a more normal game there, it should be better than ever. 0-2 to Chavez. And he reaches for it and dunks it into left field. And isn't that so much of what Andy Chavez's game has been this year, especially with 2 strikes?
He's just doing stuff that everyone has wanted him to do in the past, and that is if he gets behind in the count, at least put the ball in play, line drives, ground balls, and just really has turned around his game as a utility kind of starter for the Mets.
So the Mets have a 2-out base runner, and now Oliver Perez, who's a lifetime 168 hitter, 3 for 25 this year. Big hop for Nunez, and he throws out Perez to end the inning, but the Mets clear the pitcher's spot with Chavez's 2-out hit. 2-0 New York as we go to the 3rd. We go to the 3rd inning. Big Saturday night crowd at Shea Stadium. Mets off to a 2-0 lead on Carlos Beltran's 2-run homer, his 38th. And Oliver Perez has thrown 2 scoreless innings to start his Mets career. Jon Lieber takes ball 1. Lieber not much of a hitter. Right-hand pitcher, left-hand batter. And Perez falls behind him 2-0. Oliver Perez began his career in San Diego, was traded to Pittsburgh in the big Brian Giles trade. And it looked for a while as though the Pirates might have gotten a steal out of that deal for Giles, who had been their biggest star. It may have been a steal anyway because they got Jason Bay in the same trade.
Well, if Oliver Perez can get back to where he was in his 0-4 form, it'll be a steal for the Mets.
Without question. 3-2 now to Lieber. And, you know, a lot of what I've been reading over the last few weeks, columnists and the like, has implied that the Mets panicked and overreacted by making the trade with the Pirates when Sanchez got hurt. As Perez picks up his 4th strikeout in the last 5 batters. 1 away.
Well, it's so deceptive. What happens is you don't see the ball to the last minute. Arms, legs, glove, whip, and then you get the ball. And then when it's 92 miles an hour, that's nasty, especially from a left-hander.
So 1 away, and Jimmy Rollins coming up. But you look at all the deals that Omar Minaya has made over the last couple of years, and the one thing that's been proven is that you need to wait a little bit before you react to a deal. I mean, look at the Chris Benson deal last winter and how everybody trashed it and said that the Mets were only making the deal for off-the-field reasons that should not have been a consideration. And look at what they've gotten out of that deal. They've gotten 2/5 of their starting rotation. John Maine and El Duque, whom they got for Jorge Julio.
Well, I think the reason why it's easy for columnists to second-guess it now is because Aaron Heilman has pitched so well in the 8th inning that they haven't had to use Roberto Hernandez in that kind of inning. Roberto was there for insurance in case Heilman struggled.
And Rollins goes down swinging, and that's 5 strikeouts for Perez in a 6-batter span. 2 out and nobody on.
Well, just an outstanding slider, down and in. When you make a hitter like Jimmy Rollins take that kind of swing, you can tell how late the break is on that slider. That ball almost hits him, and he still has a swing at it.
And the thing about that deal is that to get Oliver Perez, the upside for this kid is so enormous. When you think about that, 2 years ago, you could not have gotten him for Scott Kazmir. Right?
Right. No. He was 2 years ago. He was one of those untouchable left-handed starters that would be a star for years. Didn't work out in Pittsburgh. Mets are hoping that happens here in the Big Apple.
And he's so young. 1-1 to Victorino that you have to think there's a pretty good chance that might happen.
Well, what I am seeing so far I like, and that is his stuff is fine. And he's throwing hard. His slider has a great crisp break on it.
1-1 to Victorino, lifted to shallow right. Easiest of plays for Sean Green. And Oliver Perez has himself another 1-2-3 inning. He's now retired 8 in a row since his back-to-back walks in the first inning. And he's got himself a 2-0 lead. Jose Reyes leads off the bottom of the 3rd, and Jon Lieber's got to try and figure out a way to get him out. Reyes doubled his first time up, thinks about a bunt and takes a strike. Reyes now 13 for 26 against Lieber, and included in that 4 triples, more than he's had against any other pitcher. And he rips one down the line, but foul. Keep that one fair. That's a triple.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? To get Jose Reyes out, you have to bounce some curveballs in the dirt, throw some balls out of the strike zone. That's not Jon Lieber's game. Jon Lieber, almost all of his pitches are around the strike zone.
Lieber, for his career, has averaged 1.7 walks per 9 innings. Bouncer to Utley. And Lieber retires Reyes, 1 away.
Well, so far so good for Oliver Perez. But you watch the movement on this slider. You're the hitter right now, boys and girls. That ball just changes lanes about halfway and just bores in on Jimmy Rollins. Just a nasty pitch.
There's Paul Lo Duca with 1 out. Lo Duca was robbed of a base hit on a diving play by Ryan Howard in the first inning. One to Paul. He's got to get a lot of credit for keeping his batting average where it is. I mean, Lo Duca has always been a high average hitter. His lifetime batting average coming into the year was .285. As he hits this one foul and out of play. But generally, he has put up better numbers in the first half of the season than he has in the second half. And there's been no letdown this year.
which usually makes sense, wouldn't it, for a catcher, because the wear and tear that they take. But he is thriving in the second half. Not only is he keeping his average up, he's thriving. He's hit better since the All-Star break.
For his career before this year, LaDuca, who has another base hit. 6-game hitting streak now for LaDuca. Before this season, he was hitting 51 points higher before the All-Star break than after. 308 to 257. This year, though, he has just continued to thrive. Well, here's Beltran. 2-run homer his first time up. 38th of the season to match his career high. And, oh, by the way, the 200th of his career. First run of the game, and the second as well, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Double play ball, tough hop, but Rollins stays with it, and Beltran's out at first base. Double play, side retired. Good job by Rollins to stay with a very difficult hop for the 6-6-3 double play, and the inning is over. Let's take a look at tonight's Dodge Trivia question. Oliver Perez is the Mets' 13th different starting pitcher this season. When was the last time the Mets used as many as 13 starters in a season? It's been a good little while. Decked out in the proper Mets regalia. Mets going with the Snow Whites tonight, and he's got just the right uniform on. Now that's a batting helmet look we haven't seen in a while. Chase Utley takes ball one from Perez.
Mookie Wilson could sport that helmet.
Yep. That used to be the standard issue before different colored blue and venting and everything else that has taken place with the Mets official batting helmet. It's like could belong on Jerry Grody. Right down to Delgado at the bag, and Utley retired one away. So one out and nobody on, and this is a very interesting graphic right here. Most players used in a season, because generally the teams that use the most players are the worst teams. And yet they're the Mets right near the top of the league.
And with the Reds and the Dodgers, who are having fine years, the Nationals, of course, not.
Well, the Mets have run so many starting pitchers through the mill this year because of various injuries. There's Ryan Howard, and he takes the breaking ball for a strike.
I guess it begs the question that we've seen a lot of starting pitchers, but, you know, with the older staff that the Mets have, some of these kids at some point are going to be part of the staff, whether it's Maine or Pelfrey's or Perez or.
Saw Tom Glavine, and Glavine threw a bullpen session tonight. It's not yet known when Glavine is going to make his first start coming back from the blood clot scare. 0-2 to Howard, and the sidearm delivery popped up. And David Wright taking charge, 2 away. And right there, the league's leading home run hitter looked overmatched against Oliver Perez.
Well, Perez has some amazing stuff, and usually is very tough on left-handers because he can start you out with a big high slider, then control that gas at 94 miles an hour. And again, took a little off, dropped down a little bit. That changes the angle and makes Howard just come off the ball enough for a pop-up.
10 in a row retired by Perez, and Pat Burrell takes a strike. I think Howard's still hot about the first strike. I think he thought that was.
They've had some issues with Randy Marsh, the home plate umpire so far, both sides.
Burrell took a call, third strike his first time up. Here's Marsh, the veteran crew chief. And it just misses. That's a pitch that was called a strike earlier. In fact, the pitch Burrell struck out on was at about the same location. Good fastball ball by Perez, 1-2.
Well, you'll see in the first at bat by Burrell the location of the pitches. That one called a strike. That one called a ball. Just about the same place.
Fouls off the fastball. Just getting back to Glavine for a second. It's been published that he's going to pitch Friday in Houston. He might pitch earlier than that. And that's why he has not been placed on the disabled list yet. 2-2. If he were to be placed on the disabled list, he couldn't pitch until Thursday. And there's at least the possibility he might be ready to pitch by Wednesday. And that's why the Mets are playing one short on the bench because of that possibility. 2-2 to Burrell, and the backdoor breaking ball misses. 3-2.
I guess they'll really know tomorrow after the bullpen session today how he feels, his health tomorrow.
And by that time, it's too late to backdate him, and so it becomes a moot point. You have to do that within 10 days. 3-2 to Burrell with 2 out, and he misses inside with the slider. So Perez decided to come with a breaking ball. Worked for him the last time against Burrell on 3-2. This time he issues his third walk.
Perez so far really just going with what LaDuca is calling. And I think that was a good call right there. You never want to put Pat Burrell in a 3-2 count in a fastball situation, because that's how he's hurt the Mets 35 times in the past.
And he's hurt Perez before too. 3 home runs and 11 at bats.
Oh yeah, you don't forget the guys that hit home runs off you.
Here's Jose Hernandez, who took a call third strike his first time, and he takes the backdoor slider. 0-1. Back with it and gets ahead 0-2.
You know, when you want to throw a slider just for a strike, you want to aim it on the right-hander, just in the batter's box, the left-hander batter's box. Now, when you want to throw a nasty one like that one there, then you aim down the middle of the plate, and you want the break to be down and in out of the strike zone.
On 0-2, just missed inside with the fastball. 1-2. Well, it becomes obvious very quickly why Oliver Perez was so successful a couple of years ago with the Pirates. Because he might be a little erratic, and we've seen that already tonight, but boy, the stuff is there.
Yeah, I mean, really that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see if I had heard that maybe his fastball is down, that his breaking ball is not as good. He's got all the stuff, so it just absolutely has to be a confidence problem, and with some success, with a good team, might get him out of it.
2-2 to Hernandez.
Got him!
Side retired. 6 strikeouts in the first 4 innings for Oliver Perez. And he's enjoying his initial debut as a Met. It's been a big night for Perez so far, and the Mets have a 2-0 lead. Now let's answer a Dodge trivia question. Oliver Perez, the Mets' 13th starting pitcher of the year. When was the last time the Mets used that many starters in a season? You got to go back to 1982, when the Mets used 14 starting pitchers. Carlos Delgado leads off. And just to take that one step further, the last time the Mets used this many starting pitchers before the month of September, when the rosters expand, you got to go back to 1979. Now, those were bad years for the Mets, 82 and 79. This is a potential championship year, and they've used all these starters.
Those years were the heydays, like, hey, are we going to ever win another game?
2-1 to Delgado. The heydays. Delgado bounced out. There's the shift against him, and Lieber, who never walks anybody, is behind 3-1. Did he really just throw a 94-mile-an-hour fastball?
Yeah, that's what it said, but that's no way.
Up the middle, and a base hit for Delgado. That's more like it, 88 on Lieber's fastball.
And I'm going to use that next time I get stopped for speeding right there. But Jon Lieber threw a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, so the radar doesn't work all the time. Well, you know you're going to get a pitch to hit. Even though it's 3-1, he's not going to walk you. so he decides to throw a little sinker.
If you love Raymond, listen up. The WB11's now giving you 2 Rays in a row. That's a full hour of family fun every weeknight between 7 and 8. Don't miss Everybody Loves Raymond now weeknights at 7 and 7:30 on the WB11. Mets have their 5th hit off Lieber. Leadoff man on for David Wright, trying to break out of his slump, and he takes a strike. David's latest skid, 2 for his last 22. Has seen his average drop to 296 for the year.
You know, and all the hitters on the Mets have gone through their slumps. Beltran early in the year, Delgado a couple of different times. You see these numbers on David Wright. But you just thought that David Wright wouldn't go into a real prolonged slump, only because of his ability to hit the right field, especially with 2 strikes.
And he waves at a pitch out of the strike zone, and that's been the biggest difference for Wright.
I think recognizing strikes has been a very difficult thing for him right now, just swinging at the pitches that he can handle. And that means, you know, it's just as simple as not seeing the ball well right now.
He's gone 91 at bats since his last home run. Pops this one up, and Utley has it lined up, and Wright flings the bat in frustration as Utley grabs it. That was hit about 3 miles high, but Wright is more and more visibly annoyed at what's going on.
Well, he's frustrated because it's the pitches he's swinging at. They're there, and they're pitches to be hit, but he's just missing them. And nothing irritates a hitter more than when they're getting pitches in a game, in an at-bat, and they know they can handle them, but they just miss them.
And you wonder, does swinging at pitches that you can handle affect your ability to hit the ones you can?
Well, I think it does. I think maybe when you're not seeing the ball well, absolutely, you're just a click behind putting a good swing on it. And, you know, he's missed a couple. He's hit a couple of good drives to right field, as you can see. This game will tear you up.
Well, you know, someone was asking Willie Randolph tonight, how is David handling what's going on? And Willie's, you know, reaction was his demeanor's the same. He's still working hard. But you can see little signs with David, as we have in the last 30 seconds, that it's getting to him a little bit. 1 and 2 to Green.
Yeah, I don't think Keith would mind me telling the story. I'm sure he'll tell me later if he does. But I remember Keith was going through a small slump, well, maybe a bigger slump. And we were in St. Louis, and I saw Keith at one point. Rusty had his arm around him. He had his head on his shoulder, just trying to give him confidence and say, hey, listen, you're a better hitter than that.
Green to shallow center, and Victorino in. And hustling back to first, Delgado had just got back in time. That was a very close play. The home plate umpire Randy Marsh going up the line to call it, and Delgado probably should have slid.
Second baseman, Jose Valentin.
Oh, Victorino, good jump getting to the ball, and then on the run makes this throw, and Delgado kind of eased his way in there, and that could have been an embarrassing situation. But I was talking about Keith. It just goes to show the best hitters in the game. David Wright, one of them. They go through these times, and you feel lost. You feel, how can I miss that pitch again? And start not losing your confidence, but start doubting, though, a little bit in your ability.
Valentin takes a strike. Keith used to say, I'm in the woods.
That's right. Yeah, the forest and the trees.
Valentin grounded out his first trip. Right to Utley. And that'll end the inning. The Valentin grounds out. Lieber gets through the inning. Phone. Rod, it's Keith. It's for you. Take a look at the Lexus line score. Mets with a 2-0 lead, and the Phillies with big fat zeros across against Oliver Perez, as Chris Coast leads off the 5th and takes ball 1. Perez has walked 3. He struck out 6. He walked 2 in the first inning and looked like he was in shaky territory, but worked his way out of that jam, and he's been splendid ever since. Coast lined out to Beltran his first time up. That's been the hardest hit ball against Perez tonight, and he takes a strike. And it looks like Perez has calmed down his delivery since that first little flurry.
Well, I like his motion right now, and I think you're right. He's slowed down a little bit. He seems more relaxed. He doesn't seem as agitated on the mound.
2-2 to Coast. Just missed. Good looking fastball, and if that wasn't a strike, it was awfully close.
Well, sorry, Randy Marsh, the home plate umpire, but this is a strike. It's right down the middle, right at the knees.
Oh, it's got to be a strike. 3-2 to Coast. Ball 4. And there's the 4th walk that Perez has allowed.
Third base.
Well, in the first inning, he was in trouble. Second and third, 2 out, but he got Pat Burrell, and that got Perez off to the strikeout run.
Boy, doing it both with the fastball inside, too. If you watch him pitch, looks a little bit, he has the same approach as Billy Wagner. He likes to throw a lot of fastballs inside, the slider off that fastball, and that one a backdoor to Hernandez.
Here's Abraham Nunez, and he flares one foul. Nunez went down looking his first time up. Going to struggle all year for Nunez, who's now playing every day since the trade of David Bell to Milwaukee. Past the mound, Valentine makes the flip. He got caught in between that time, thinking he was going to make a tag on Coast, and then having to go behind him, and that cost him the double play.
Well, that was a great call there, Gary, and that's what happened, is that the ball, in charging it, brought him past the runner. And once he got past the runner, he could not tag him. Good play, though, at least getting the go-ahead runner.
Now, Coast veered right as Lieber takes ball 1, but it was not in the act of avoiding a tag, so I guess you couldn't argue that he ran out of the baseline.
You see Coast going around. Nah, that's not too bad. That's an all right play.
Lieber struck out his first time up. Mets looking for the bunt. And Perez falls behind 3-0. Here's a spot where the pitcher's trying to give you an out.
Especially with 1 out, you've got to throw a strike here and make him put the ball in play. You know he's going to be taking this pitch at least.
And you see the pitch count for Perez working in the 5th inning, almost as many balls as strikes. He throws strike 1 to Lieber. 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. That'll make for a lot of pitches thrown, even though he hasn't allowed any hits. And he walks Lieber. So Perez buying himself some trouble now. His 5th walk of the night. His last big league start in June, he walked 7 in less than 4 innings. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. Take the Hyundai Challenge. Visit the HyundaiChallenge.com. So now a chance for the Phillies to get right back in it with the tying runs on base and Jimmy Rollins at the plate. 2-0 New York, 5th inning, and the breaking ball foul.
That was interesting after the walk to Lieber that Jimmy Rollins would swing at that high slider. See him patting his pat saying, come on, make the ball be down.
Rollins had a terrific year. 3rd in the league in runs scored. In the top 10 in doubles, in base hits, in stolen bases. On base percentage still not as high as he'd like it at .340, but nonetheless a good year for Rollins. Big hopper to 3rd, right on the short hop to Valentine on to 1st, not in time. It would have been awfully tough to turn 2 against Jimmy Rollins, and Wright and Valentine did it as well as they possibly could have.
Nice job by David Wright charging this ball and throwing on the run. Perfect strike to Valentine, who got rid of it quickly, accurately, and Jimmy Rollins' athleticism too much for that double play, even out of the right-hand hitter's box.
Well, I'll tell you, for a guy who does not have all that much experience as a second baseman, Valentine turns that play like he's been doing it all his life. And Victorino skips away. Speaking of second baseman, looking at the box scores this morning and seeing that Kaz Matsui had a big night last night for the Colorado Rockies. He was on base 4 times in the Rockies win over San Diego. And Kaz coming into tonight is 4 for 8 since the Rockies called him up a few days ago. And of course, we'll see Kaz at Coors Field Tuesday night.
Now, what's an ardent Mets fan say to that?
Probably boo. They should be saying good for Kaz.
Yeah.
Because it's worked out for everybody concerned. Certainly has worked out the Mets having Valentine playing every day at second base. And it's worked out for Matsui that he's back in the big leagues and healthy. Victorino hits it hard through the hole, and there's the first Philadelphia hit, and it brings home their first run and cuts the Mets lead in half. It's now 2-1. So the walks finally catch up to Oliver Perez as Victorino singles home the Phillies' first run.
Second baseman, Utley.
Well, trying a fastball inside, but it's 2-1, so Victorino, 2-1 count. Victorino can almost know that he's going to get a fastball down the middle and lace that ball into left field.
So the first Philadelphia hit produces their first Philadelphia run, and now the tying run at second for Utley, who has walked and grounded out. Ball 2. And Perez falling behind far too many hitters. He's already walked 5. And he's facing a very big spot here against a great hitter in Utley. And it's 3-0. And a walk would fill the bases for Ryan Howard. 19.3 pitches per inning, most in the big leagues this year, and you can see why. And he hits Utley to fill the bases, and that one caught LaDuca on the carom as well. So it goes in the books as a hit batsman, and incidentally as a hit catcher. And now the bases are loaded for Ryan Howard. And as Perez gets set to face his moment of truth, Rick Peterson heads to the mound, and Willie Randolph heads to the phone.
Well, watch it deflect off Utley, off his lat onto the top of the thigh, knee for LaDuca.
It's a twofer.
You know, so what you're seeing here is what you get with Oliver Perez right now until they can work with him and make him more refined. You got a guy that has stretches of looks like you can't get a hit off him, that he'll strike you out, and then there's other parts where it doesn't look like he can find a strike zone. So that is the work in progress.
Chad Bradford will start to get ready behind Perez, who's up to 89 pitches already here in the 5th inning. And he's got a huge out to get right now against Ryan Howard, whom he's handled so far tonight. Bases loaded, 2 down. And he gets him waving at the slider. 0-1.
It's interesting. He's had a good breaking ball against Ryan Howard. Almost seems like he's picking that front shoulder of Howard to aim it at, and the ball breaking down and away from him. That's what Perez has done. He's mixed up his fastball and breaking pitches. Very good on Howard so far.
Throws another slider, and Howard again wailing like he has no idea. And it's 0-2. Well, this is the way he looked in the last at bat, and he eventually hit a little pop up to third base.
Well, he dropped down Perez here, and that one made it even more break on it. But, you know, that's only 2 strikes. The third one's the big one. You got to be very careful not to throw one in the strike zone here.
Howard has struck out 148 times this year. To deep right field. That is headed to the wall. Green going back, and it's out of here. A grand slam for Ryan Howard. And it all comes crashing down on Oliver Perez. Home run number 46 for Howard. He hit it on an 0-2 pitch, and he gives the Phillies a 5-2 lead. Wow. The third strike, the hardest indeed. .46 home runs, 121 RBIs for Ryan Howard, and now Burrell laces one into the seats.
Well, an 0-2 pitch, you work so hard to get to that count so you can have the ability to expand the strike zone, throw something out of the strike zone, and just a hanging slider out of the hand of Oliver Perez.
And Burrell fouls it off. Well, this inning began so well.
Well, what happens sometimes for young pitchers when they're ahead, they try to throw that filthy slider, one that breaks 10 feet and ends up not breaking at all.
In there for a call strike 3 to Burrell. That puts a capper to the inning. The 7th strikeout for Oliver Perez. But a huge inning for the Phillies, capped by Ryan Howard's 3rd career grand slam, his 46th home run of the year. And the Phillies now with a 5-2 lead. But Jon Lieber now has himself a 3-run lead. And Andy Chavez takes a strike. Boy, how things can change in a hurry. Oliver Perez had not allowed a hit over the first 4 innings, and it looked like he had the leadoff hitter in the 5th struck out as Chavez rips a base hit. But Coast took a pitch that looked like strike 3. He wound up walking him. And then when it looked like he was on the verge of getting out of the inning, Ryan Howard hit the bomb.
Well, you just have to be so careful with Howard right now because he's just not missing mistakes. Simple as that. So if you make your pitches, he struck out 148 times, I believe you said, then you can get him out. But if you make mistakes, he's just not missing them right now. Just what a talent.
Michael Tucker will bat for Perez, so he's done after 95 pitches in 5 innings. Tucker, the only left-handed bat on the Mets' shortened bench. They're going with just 4 bench players right now. Tucker grounded out as a pinch hitter last night. To Tucker. Jon Lieber trying to beat the Mets for the 2nd straight time. Pitched a 5-hit shutout against them in Philadelphia 10 days ago. Tucker takes it at his feet. 2-2.
Well, you and I talked a little bit about the MVP before the game today. It's going to be tough because the Phillies are going to be in it all year long. And in this Philadelphia lineup, solid lineup, all right, but nothing fantastic behind him. And he's just carrying this team.
Especially now with Abreu gone. Their lineup would appear to be limited as far as power threats are concerned. I mean, Chase Utley is a nice hitter, a very good hitter, but he's not the kind of long ball threat that Abreu might have been. And the Phillies, you know, if they win tonight, they're a half game out of the wild card with the Reds having lost this afternoon. This is a team that was 7.5 out when they made the deal to send Abreu to the Yankees. 3-2 now to Tucker. So the Mets trying to fight back, and Tucker with a good at bat here.
So less than a month ago, and now they're right back in it.
Well, the quote from Pat Gillis, we talked about it yesterday, said no matter how hard we try, we're still in it. See if Chavez runs on 3 and 2. He does, and Tucker takes ball 4. The Mets, just like that, will get the tying run to the plate. The 2 aboard.
The shortstop,
Oliver Perez.
Well, this is 0-2 here. Leduc is talking to Perez, shouting some words of encouragement, but not able to execute Perez. In those times, the catcher will say, hey, listen, make sure we don't throw a strike, you know, make your pitch, things like that, and Oliver not able to do that.
It can seem unusual to see a catcher go to the mound on 0-2. Figure things are going well.
Those catchers sometimes, they can have those foreboding thoughts.
But can you almost buy trouble by putting negative thoughts in the pitcher's head? As Reyes pops it up. Infield fly rule will be invoked. The batter is out. And Rollins has it 1 away.
Well, just like you have to know your customer, you have to know your pitcher. And some guys, it works. You can go out there and tell them, hey, listen, make sure, Ron Darling, make sure that split finger you're going to throw here, we need to bounce that, okay? Got to bounce it. And it would work for me. Some other pitchers you want to leave alone, because you're right. It's almost like if you're on the tee box and someone says, hey, try to avoid that water on the right. Invariably, you're going to hit it in the water.
And this is the first time that Leduc has ever worked with Oliver Perez. They might not have even met before today when Perez came into the clubhouse. Leduc 1 for 2, and he takes ball 1. And that's, you know, we talk all the time about catchers learning their pitchers. Part of that is temperament and what to say to whom.
So what a job Leduc has done this year with 13 different starting pitchers.
He has done an incredible job with the glove and with the bat. And he takes a strike, 1-1. 1 for 2 tonight, now hitting at .315 for the year. Mets trying to fight back against Lieber after the Phillies put up a 5 spot on the top of the inning. Slow bouncer. Do they have time for 2? Utley's relay got him. Side retired. Utley was able to avoid the on-sliding Tucker and turn the double play. 6-4-3 gets Lieber out of the inning. Jon Lieber had 2 aboard in the top of the batting order coming up, but he popped up Reyes and got Leduc to ground into a double play to keep his 3-run lead. Well, things have certainly changed. Mets had a 2-0 lead after 4. Phillies put up 5 thanks to Ryan Howard's grand slam off Oliver Perez. And the Mets bypassed an opportunity to come right back in the bottom of the inning. Doesn't mean the ice cream doesn't taste just as good, though.
The right fielder, Jose Hernandez.
Well, Darren Oliver in that position where he can try to get a few innings for the Mets, with Perez only going 5 innings. Oliver has just been a great addition to this Mets bullpen the entire year. He's played a lot of different roles. Long man, short man, situational lefty.
Off the fists, and Reyes has got it. Timed it perfectly as Jose Hernandez flared one on the first pitch. 1 away.
Well, Jose Reyes, I'll tell you, when I look at any of the athletes on the Mets, Jose Reyes, the only guy I think that could play guard for Duke.
The catcher.
He could be a defensive back for the New York Jets. Probably a great tennis player. I mean, literally, that's how great of an athlete he is. He could be great in any sport.
Here's Chris Coast, and he takes a strike. It was Coast who got the Phillies started against Perez in the 5th. You remember there was a pitch that looked for all the world as though it were strike 3, but Randy Marsh didn't give it to Perez, and then Coast wound up walking to get the rally started. Let's go back to the bottom of the 5th inning. That's at 2 on with Leduc up. Tucker the runner at first.
Well, Michael Tucker running hard, but he picked the wrong side. He thought that Utley was going to come across the bag with the throw. He goes to the inside part. Utley does the fancy maneuver, goes to the outside part, and he did not touch him.
A little contact might have gone a long way because Leduc was barely out at first base. you talk about little things. If you're able to avoid a double play in that spot, now you got first and third and Beltran coming up. And that makes all the difference in the world. The other way, and Coast has himself a base hit. The legend of Chris Coast continues to grow, and he's got himself a one-out double. Chris Coast, lifelong minor leaguer, former independent league player for 4 years in Fargo, North Dakota, author of 2 books, 33-year-old rookie, and he's hitting over 350.
Third base.
Unbelievable hitting, too, going the other way, hitting this ball down the right field line. You know, he hit about 450 in spring training for the Phillies. Looked like he was going to make the team, and then they acquired Dave DeLucci late in spring camp and did not make the team.
Fouled away by Nunez, 0-1. Now, he only wound up playing in the States the last couple of years because Charlie Manuel remembered him from the Indians organization. He was going to go to Korea to play ball professionally, but the Phillies signed him on Manuel's recommendation, and he wound up where he was supposed to be all along, I guess. Little flare to right, and Green comes in, loses the cap again. Got to ask Sean about that cap. That's the 3rd time in 3 games he's lost his cap going after a fly ball.
The pitcher, Jon Lieber.
So two-way. Get your Mets season ticket pack to guarantee your seats for all 15 September home games and secure a ticket purchase option for all 2006 postseason games at Shea. Go to Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX to get your season ticket pack now. Jon Lieber takes a strike. Lieber drew a walk after attempting to sacrifice against Perez his last time up. And Oliver throws a bender, 0-2.
Could you get 2 different left-handers from Oliver Perez to Darren Oliver? Oliver Perez jumping around out there, and Darren Oliver just slow and easy.
From Oliver to Oliver.
Yes.
Please, sir. I want some more. There you go. Strike 3, and Lieber is down. First strikeout for Darren Oliver. So he holds the Phillies at bay. Mets down by 3. This week's Mets WB11 poll question is brought to you by NYPD Recruitment. Go to nypdrecruitment.com or call 212-RECRUIT. Question: will Billy Wagner top last year's save total of 38? Well, he's got, what, 32 now?
Yes.
Log on to WB11.com to vote. Tune in tomorrow for the results. I know how I'd vote.
I'm thinking that probably isn't too much that Julio Franco doesn't know, but here Orlando Hernandez doing a little juggling act with the ball.
I think your hands have got to be large enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy if your hands are big enough. I've done that many times before. Not quite Jim Bibby hands, though. Could hold, what, 9 baseballs in his hand?
Once saw a picture of Johnny Bench holding, I think it was 8 or 9, something like that. Huge, huge hands. Carlos Beltran takes ball 1. Beltran responsible for the 2 Met runs tonight. And just we were praising him and his ability to juggle the balls, and now he fumbles them. By the way, El Duque is scheduled to go out and do some throwing tomorrow, probably long tossing or flat ground. After missing his start last night, he and the Mets continue to insist there's nothing physically wrong, that he was just tired and in need of a little break, which you've got the luxury of doing with a big lead.
Yes. Just watching El Duque and Julio Franco laugh, I'll tell you, during the course of the long season, there are some things that you laugh about that at the end, you can't believe that you're laughing about it. I mean, just trying to kill time.
I think they're talking about what happened back during the Roosevelt administration. Teddy.
Teddy.
3-2 to Beltran. You know what's great, though? You know, you're a big league ball player. You get to be a kid.
Yes.
For life, right? As long as your career lasts. And if you're 48 or however old El Duque is, you get to be a kid well past the time when everybody else has to grow up.
Absolutely.
Beltran whacking that last foul ball off his leg.
A little slider down and in. He hit that right off his instep. Has that pad, covers everything except the instep.
And he walks. So Lieber, who walks very few, walked Tucker in the last inning, and now Beltran to lead off the sixth. So the Mets will try and get something going with Delgado, and what better this season? The sixth inning means it's time to swing for sandwiches. If a Met hits a home run this inning, you can log on to WV11.com for your chance to score a $100 gift card at Subway. Delgado 1 for 2, singled up the middle his last time up. They've got the shift on, but with a runner at first, Utley can't play way back in the outfield. And Delgado takes a strike.
Interesting, you play the shift like that, and the first pitch from Lieber is a sinker away. A pitch that, if Carlos Delgado chooses to, just has a freebie hit to the left side.
We've seen Delgado do that. I'm trying to think, have we seen Delgado hit more than one home run the other way?
The only one I remember him is the game winner home run he hit against Pittsburgh, the left center.
12th inning shot. But the vast majority of his home runs have been pulled.
He's a classic old-time hitter where they just spin and pull the ball for home runs. Think of guys like Norm Cash and
got all the way around on that one, which almost hit him if he hadn't swung at it. .32 home runs, 88 RBIs for Delgado. Had his 8-game hitting streak stopped last night, has a hit tonight. It's very hard to work a high pitch count against Jon Lieber because he's always right around the plate.
What you do have to do, though, is step out on him occasionally, because he can start getting into that role. Next thing you know, you're 0-2 before you even, it's almost like before you saw the pitch.
He's had a lot of base runners the last few innings. Leadoff man on third straight inning. And Delgado fouls off another one. So he's not going to work quite as fast with runners on base. He's already had 2 games he's pitched against the Mets this year. 1 in 2 hours and 11 minutes and 1 in 2 hours and 3 minutes. On 0-2, Delgado hits one deep toward the gap in left center. Back goes Burrow looking up, and it's out of here! There's your opposite field home run. Number 33 for Carlos Delgado, a 2-run shot, and the Mets are back to within a run. Lieber kept working him away, and Delgado finally drove one that way. Runs keep on coming for Carlos Delgado. That's 7 in his last 9 games. And Wright dribbles one. The catcher Coast will take charge, and that's the first out.
Well, what an impressive at-bat by Carlos Delgado. Really fouled off a lot of different pitches and then got one up in the strike zone. Fouled off a lot of pitches down, finally got one up, and like you were talking about, Gary, drove that ball over the left field wall. Impressive hitting.
Well, Delgado just continues his hot spate of hitting over the last 2 weeks. As Sean Green takes a strike. And it's funny because for those couple of months when Delgado was struggling, he had Beltran and Wright around him hitting. And as Wright has cooled down, Delgado has taken over. And Beltran, of course, just has hit all year. And so they've had 2 of the 3 of them going virtually at all times. Shawn Green 0 for 2 tonight, 1 for 9 since joining the Mets. And he smacks one to center for a base hit. So the Mets get the tying run aboard. They've hit a lot of balls hard tonight against Jon Lieber, more than they had the last couple of times they faced him.
He's been up in the strike zone, so he's there to be had. The Mets have swings like this off the bat of Shawn Green.
By the way, the 33 home runs for Delgado matches his total from last year with Florida. His career high is 44. He did that with Toronto in 1999. Here's Valentine 0 for 2 and takes inside.
Some kind of slump, huh? Still able to tie his career high of last year, but I'll let you know that maybe he has a chance at that 40 mark this year.
And the Mets now with 3 players with 90 or more RBIs as Delgado gets to 90. Wright has 91. Beltran with 108. So it's been a struggle for Lieber. He's given up a couple of 2-run homers tonight. Aaron Foltz up in the Philadelphia bullpen. A leadoff walk to Beltran. That's a rarity for Lieber, and it came back to bite him. Shawn Green at one time was a base stealer. In fact, one year he was a 30-30 player in Toronto, stole 35 bases. But not anymore. Now he'll steal 5 or 6 a year. One and one to Valentine. Center base hit. Green held up on a ball that clearly was going to land. Not sure he could have gone first to third anyway. But Green did not read that ball well, so he clearly had to stop at second. And the Mets have the tying run in scoring position with 1 out.
Well, not a bad pitch from Lieber, but a little up in the strike zone, and Valentine just able to hit that off the end of the bat. That's why you knew it was going to be a hit all the way. That might be Green not having great knowledge of Shane Victorino because he plays so shallow. Maybe that made him pause.
Rich Dubé, the pitching coach, out to talk to Lieber. Mets now have 8 hits off Lieber. You got the 8 and 9 spots in the order coming up. Chavez and then the pitcher's spot. The Phillies have been on a roll. They've won 6 of their last 7. They've got the second best record in the National League since the All-Star break. And they could, with a win tonight, be only a half game out of the wild card lead.
And they have to play every night like it's the 7th game of the World Series. That has to be their attitude from now to October 1st.
And they're playing without their closer, Tom Gordon on the DL, without their center fielder, Aaron Rowand, who's now out for the year. Here's Chavez, and he takes the slider ball 1. And yet they've kept on rolling.
Well, they've got some nice play from Shane Victorino and up in the outfield spots. Dave DeLucci has come on to hit 12 home runs for him.
That wild card race is still crowded, although a little separation is starting to happen as some teams are falling a little too far back for comfort. And Chavez drops down a beauty. They'll never throw him out, and the bases are loaded. Well, Chavez surprised everybody in the ballpark. First and second and 1 out. You expect to try and drive in that tying run. But he laid down a perfect bunt to load him up for Julio Franco.
Well, the third baseman was so deep that Chavez, who has shown the ability to bunt and bunt well, this is just a perfect bunt. The third baseman Nunez gave it to him. He took it. And not a bad play because now you got your best pinch hitter, Julio Franco, coming up to the plate.
So the Mets with the bases loaded. Chavez now 3 for 3 on the night. And a chance for Franco with the Mets down by a run. Julio appeared as a pinch hitter last night, single to right field. And why teams don't put 7 players on the right side of the diamond against Franco, I'm not quite sure.
He's like a left-handed pull hitter, but you'll see the right fielder, Jose Hernandez, very shallow in right field, and that's really the power field for Julio Franco.
The infield at double play depth. Bases loaded, 1 out. To short, might be 2. Rollins to Utley, and on to first, double play, side retired. Lieber gets the big ground ball when he needs it. 6-4-3 double play, and he's able to retain the lead. Delgado's 2-run homer gets the Mets close, but Lieber gets out of a bases loaded jam. The Mets wrap up their series with the Phillies tomorrow at 1:10 p.m. And after the road trip to Colorado and Houston, the Mets return to Shea on Labor Day for the first of 3 games against the Atlanta Braves. Go to Mets.com now for your print-at-home tickets. And the Mets should be just about ready to eliminate the Braves by then.
Boy, it seems like a long time since the Mets have played the Atlanta Braves.
Well, the last time they played them in Atlanta, they kind of left them for dead, and
yes.
the Braves have shown no signs of life since. As Pedro Feliciano and his sub-2 ERA come on to pitch.
Just gets lower and lower, but his last outing was just fantastic. Inning and a third. Using his sinker and his changeup against the right-handed hitters. I think that's a good thing for him.
And what was great about that outing last night is that he threw just 11 pitches to 4 batters.
Yeah, I was going to say last night, but when you do these many games, sometimes they seem to mesh into each other and you forget what day it is.
But now he falls behind Rollins 2-0, and this is what we've seen quite a bit from Feliciano this year, the tendency to throw a lot of pitches to each batter. Rollins 0 for 3 on the night. There's a strike, 2-1.
And he should be just the opposite. He wants to get those hitters out as soon as he can, especially the right-handers. That was a good sinking fastball. That ball he can use, that pitch he can use against the right-handers to get ground balls.
Rollins back up the middle. Valentine with a great play. Well, the hamstring's fine now. What a fabulous layout play by Jose Valentine. 1 man down.
Well, this ball over the middle, and Rollins paced it to center field, but look at the jump he got on the ball. That's the amazing part. I mean, it's a great catch, layout and everything, but he would not have been able to make that play unless he had that first movement up the middle.
Well, Valentine was saying earlier in the week when he was working toward coming back, as Shane Victorino steps in, that he was feeling okay, but he wanted to get to the point before he went in a game where in the middle of the game where he wasn't necessarily doing a lot of exercise and staying warm, where he could make that one quick move, whether out of the batter's box or in the field. Well, he obviously felt comfortable enough to make it there. Victorino off the fists, and Reyes retreating, can't get it. Reyes caught one like that earlier in the game off the bat of Jose Hernandez, but that one had just a little more lift to it, and Victorino has a 1-out single.
Second baseman.
Let's check in with Chris Connor. Chris?
Hey, Gary, just to add to what you were saying about Valentine, I talked to him today, and he said, you know, looking at tomorrow's game, said a day game after a night game, a lot of times it's not only how you feel, but it's how the muscle recovers after having a lot of quick movements like we just saw from him. So he said he's not sure whether he'll be able to play tomorrow, just looking ahead. But, and Keith will always say this too, from a position player standpoint, 48 hours rest is more than twice as good as 24 hours rest. So if he doesn't play tomorrow, he says he thinks he'll be 100% by Tuesday.
Well, he sure looked 100% on that last play, but Willie's been playing Woodward against the lefties anyway, and Jamie Moyer's going tomorrow.
Well, Valentine just had an amazing year, and I think that tomorrow would be a perfect time to get him a day off, and then you get him those 2 days.
Utley has walked, been hit by a pitch, 0 for 1 on the night, and fouls off the breaking ball, 0-2.
Now we're back in the space now, right? 0-2. To one of their good hitters, Utley's certainly not Howard yet. He's up next. But you work so hard as a pitcher to get to 0-2. You don't want to give that up by making a mistake up in the strike zone. So either you want to rush a fastball in and waste it and then go back to the slider, or throw the slider out of the strike zone. You cannot throw it for strike.
He throws the slider, and it's hit to left. And there's Chavez to make the play. 2 out. Well, an 0-2 mistake is the difference in this game right now. the last time Ryan Howard came to the plate.
Well, Perez went right after him. Nice slider down and away. Another one down and away. And he wanted one more there, but left that right in the middle of the strike zone, up about waist high. And you can't make that mistake on Ryan Howard in 2006.
That was his 3rd career grand slam, his 46th home run of the year. Now it's 121 runs batted in. Hit hard, but right at Valentine. And Feliciano hangs up a 0 in the top of the 7th. Helped out by Valentine's defense, Feliciano gets the job done. Mets still down by just 1. Fans up and stretching. Mets down by a run as we go to the bottom of the 7th. And a little bit surprising to see Jon Lieber out of the ball game after 86 pitches over 6 innings.
I have to think the only reason he's out with Rick White in is because Jose Reyes is leading off and the numbers that Reyes has against Lieber.
Rick White pitched for the Mets back in 2000 and 2001. Began this year in Cincinnati. They let him go and the Phillies picked him up. Rick is now 37 years old. And the Mets with the top of the batting order up against White here in the bottom of the 7th. And Reyes smacks one up the middle. And the Mets have the tying run aboard. 1 pitch. Reyes has his 2nd hit of the night. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward. Well, the Mets led this game 2-0. Ryan Howard's grand slam put the Phillies up 5-2. Delgado's 2-run homer got the Mets closer. And now with Reyes aboard leading off in the bottom of the 7th, Mets will try and get this game even against Rick White. Reyes with 54 stolen bases to lead the league. A run scored tonight is 104th of the year. Ball 1 to LaDuca. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Chris Cotter, our producer Greg Picker, our director Dan Regan, with you from Shea Stadium. Mets trying to get even in the series against the Phillies, who've been tough for them over the last few weeks. Mets lost 3 out of 4 to the Phillies last week in Philadelphia. Ronnie, talk to me about Howard playing off the bag, holding the runner on.
Or what he's doing right now by playing off the bag, he's trying to get a little better jump off the bag because LaDuca hits the ball that way. But what he does, he takes away any ability to put down a tag on Reyes. So you don't really have any chance of picking him off.
Now, if Reyes sees that, does that enable him to get a larger lead with the space that Howard has between himself and the bag?
He does have the ability to have a larger lead. The only problem you have with Howard is sometimes when the throw is into the bag, he's so big that he gets his body and it ends up blocking Reyes from the bag.
2-0 to LaDuca. Big cut by Paul. And that's when that thumb really hurts.
Occasionally he gets a 2-0, 2-1 count where he goes for the downs, and I think that's what he tried to do here. And it's all right when he hits it, because when he misses it, that's when it hurts.
The thumb's been bothering him for the better part of 2 months now, but he's played right through it. He's hit marvelously over that span. See if Reyes takes off here on 2-1. Not going. Line drive, base hit. Reyes will stop at second with Hernandez playing shallow. And the Mets have 2 aboard and nobody out, and the big boys coming up. So the table setters could not have done it better. And Charlie Manuel, working without his closer, has got himself a problem.
Well, nice base running by Reyes. Has to hold on that humpback line drive.
So here's Beltran. Hit a 2-run homer in the first inning, his 38th to tie his career high. It was also the 200th of his career. He's grounded into a double play and he's walked. He now has 102 runs scored to go with his 108 runs batted in. Tying run at second, lead run at first with nobody out. And Beltran, as he often will do, turns to bunt, and he got hit by the pitch.
Hit him in the back foot.
Beltran didn't appear to be sure of that. And Charlie Manuel is a little uneasy with the call as well.
He doesn't know what to do.
I mean, Beltran did not immediately move down to first base. I don't know if Charlie's out to make a pitching change or argue the call. Maybe he's going to do both.
Remember, Charlie Manuel was thrown out of last night's game, so certainly doesn't want to do it 2 nights in a row. Squares around a bunt. Ball hits him in the back foot.
Glancing blow.
Just had to scrape him. But he did. He reacted quickly, and you can't fake that.
So Rick White comes in, faces 3 batters, retires nobody, and exits with the bases loaded, and Carlos Delgado coming up, so they'll bring in the left-hander to face Delgado. This call to the bullpen brought to you by T-Mobile. Get more minutes, more features, more service. Mets poised to try and tie or take the lead. Carlos Delgado with the bases loaded, looks one to deep left center, playable, and run down by Victorino, but the tying run will score. Reyes, the other runners move up a base. The game is even at 5, and Delgado advanced all 3 runners. His 3rd RBI of the night, his 91st of the year. The game is tied, and runners are at 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. That is a major league fly ball from Carlos Delgado.
And good to see again another drive to left center off the bat of Carlos Delgado. Just staying on the ball about as good as you can do with that level swing. Thought it had a chance there for a second. And as David Wright gets intentionally walked, great base running by LaDuca and Beltran.
So Wright will get the intentional pass despite the fact that he's in a deep slump. This will load the bases and bring up the left-hand batter Shawn Green against Aaron Foltz. After Rick White failed to get anybody out, Foltz greeted on the first pitch by the Delgado sac fly to tie the game. So Jon Lieber can no longer win. Oliver Perez can no longer lose.
For Jose Reyes, in case Manny Acta was sleeping, he decided that he was going to do a little third base coaching, as he's saying, tag up. And as he scores a run, he's happy not only to score the tying run, but that his base mates were able to advance.
Well, Beltran is such a great base runner, going from first to second on that fly ball. And that forces the intentional walk and gives Shawn Green a chance to be heroic. As you look at the numbers on Foltz, Green 1 for 3 on the night. And the lefty throws the breaking ball away. And you can understand that Shawn might be a little over anxious in this spot. A chance to make his first mark as a Met. And he's behind on the count 0-2.
Well, we've had some interesting at-bats already in this game with 0-2 counts. We'll see this battle between Foltz and Green.
Ryan Howard hit a home run, a grand slam on an 0-2 count. Carlos Delgado homered on an 0-2 count. And Green watches this slider, 1-2.
You know, the problem, Gary, is that Aaron Foltz, his pitch against left-handed hitters is that slider. But if you don't do anything inside at some point with the fastball, then the hitter is seeing slider after slider after slider, and they start to get closer and closer to it.
On 1-2, Green hits it the other way, deep left, back goes Burrell, and he can't get it. LaDuca will score. Beltran with Wright right behind him. Wright will stop at third. Beltran scores, and the Mets have a 7-5 lead. Shawn Green with his first marker as a New York Met. A 2-run double to put the Mets in front. And great decision-making by Maniacta, sending Beltran, but stopping Wright, who was right on his heels.
Well, another slider from Fultz. He elevates it enough, and beautiful hitting by Green going the other way. Burrell had a long way to go, could not get to it. Beltran went back to tag up at second base. He thought Burrell was going to make the play, but Maniacta gets a green light and then the red light to right.
That's like red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. Very hard to send one guy and stop the next one, but it worked out perfectly because if Wright had gone, he would have been out. Infield in for Valentine. They're not intentionally walking him, even with the lefty Chavez on deck. They intentionally walked Wright. That didn't work. 2-0 to Valentine. And maybe they will wind up walking him.
It's 2 times in this past week, hasn't it, that they've walked David Wright. Chris Woodward came up with a big hit, and now Shawn Green.
Wright at third, Green at second, and still only 1 out. 3 runs home here in the 7th. Mets with a 7-5 lead, and now they will walk Valentine intentionally. And Chavez will try and do what Green did and mess up the strategy. Shawn Green was behind in the count 1-2, but his 2-run double has given the Mets the lead. And now Chavez, who's already 3 for 3 on the night, will try and do some more. And Rich Doobie will go to the mound. We talked about the Phillies bullpen. They've done a very nice job since Tom Gordon went on the disabled list. But without their closer, that moves people up into bigger roles. And sometimes that winds up catching up with you.
And the guy they usually use in this role, when Rick White came in, is Jeff Geary. Yesterday's game, he had to go 2 innings for the Phillies, probably on the shelf tonight.
Ryan Madsen has been their setup guy. Now he was the closer for last night's game. So it puts a little more pressure on everybody, much as it has in the Mets bullpen, but the Mets had a little more depth to work with to fill in for Duaner Sanchez, and part of that depth was the trade they made for Roberto Hernandez. So now a chance for Indy. Chavez, the 8th man up in the inning. 3 for 3 tonight, and he's been hitting very well against lefties, particularly lately. And the Phillies, against the speed of Chavez, have to bring the infield in. Now, normally, bases loaded, 1 out, you're going to play a double play depth, but they figure they're not going to be able to double up Chavez. And that gives such an advantage to the hitter with more space to hit that ball through the infield. And he drives one to right. Hernandez can't get it. Wright scores. Green scores. Valentine will be stopped at third. 9-5 New York. Endy Chavez comes through again. It's a 5-run 7th inning for the Mets, as they've come storming back from a 5-2 deficit. Endy Chavez will get credit for a 2-run double.
Well, that big high leg kick, and Jose Hernandez, a utility player, plays a lot in the infield, not able to come up with that play.
Now Chris Woodward will bat for Pedro Feliciano, who's pitcher of record on the long side. The infield in. And no, they're not intentionally walking him, but they've already had 2 of those blow up in their face, and you got Jose Reyes waiting on deck. Been a tough inning for Charlie Manuel and the Phillies. Shawn Green with a 2-run double. Now Endy Chavez with a 2-run double. Left-hand hitters both against the lefty. And Woodward dumps a base hit into right center. Here comes Valentine. Chavez behind him. He's in to score. 11-5 New York. Woodward drives home a pair. It's a 7-run inning for the New York Mets.
Well, nice hitting by Woodward. Stays on that changeup away from Aaron Fultz. Valentine scoring, of course. And Endy Chavez, the hero with that double and 2 runs scored, scoring the 11th run for the Mets.
Now Reyes, who led off the inning with a base hit, gets another crack at it. And he waves at the changeup. Endy Chavez 4 for 4 on the night. He took it 0 for last night. He's bounced back big time. Second time this year Chavez has had a 4-hit game. Reyes waves at another one, 0-2.
Well, he started on the bench and he's become everyday Endy for the New York Mets.
So Floyd, rehabbing his sore Achilles down in Florida, hopes to be back by the 1st of September, but Endy is filling his spot quite nicely right now. Well, it doesn't look as though Aaron Foltz is getting any relief in this inning, although the Phillies now have gotten their bullpen back up. Rick White began the inning, didn't retire anybody, and Foltz is throwing gasoline on the fire in a 7-run inning. Still only 1 out. Big hopper for Rollins. They'll get the force and no more. And that's the 2nd out. Matt Smith, who was just called up by the Phillies yesterday, he was one of the pitchers the Phillies got in the Bobby Abreu trade from the Yankees. He was up with the Yankees briefly earlier this season and now up in the Philadelphia bullpen. So here's Loduca, who had a base hit earlier in this inning. Loduca 2 for 4 on the night, and he takes ball 1 from Foltz. And a strike to Loduca. Well, Jon Lieber worked the first 6 innings for the Phillies. Got out of a jam in the 6th inning to keep a 1-run lead. Left after 86 pitches. And the bullpen is blown up on Charlie Manuel here in the 7th.
Well, you and I both talked about an unusual move. Lieber's one of those guys that usually you have to rip the ball out of his hands before he'll leave the game. And in a 1-run game, as you look at Charlie Manuel, as a starting pitcher, you want to stay there as long as you can. Try to get it as deep as you can, because in a 1-run game, when it gets deeper, you got a better chance of getting the win.
Loduca with a slow roller, and Rollins barehands it and makes the play. Nicely done by Rollins to finally put the brakes on the inning. But 11 men came to bat for the Mets. Delgado got the game tied with a sacrifice fly, and then the Mets began wailing. Sean Green with his biggest hit as a Met so far, a 2-run double to give them the lead, and then it kept on going. Endy Chavez with a 2-run double off Jose Hernandez's glove in right field. Woodward with a 2-run hit, and it's 11-5. Well, the Mets on the strength of a 7-run 7th inning, now with a 6-run lead as we go to the 8th inning. We'll check out the Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. Cardinals beat the Cubs for the 2nd straight day, 2-1. And with the Reds losing in San Francisco, the Cardinals have now reestablished a 2-game lead in the National League Central. Florida winning at home against Milwaukee. That's 6 straight wins now for the Marlins as they try and fight their way back toward 500. Houston leading at Pittsburgh. San Diego can get within a half game of the Reds for the wild card lead with a win tonight. And the Padres also start the night just 1 game out of first place in the West. The Dodgers have lost 4 straight. They'll be in Arizona tonight.
Well, Yermo Moda, who has struggled with the Cleveland Indians, has looked very comfortable with the Mets so far from coming over. Using the pitching in that fastball and that changeup, and he gets a chance to pitch the 8th inning for the Mets.
Well, the Mets putting together another one of those big innings that have become a specialty this year. They've already had their biggest inning in history this year, an 11-run inning in Chicago. But they have had more than their share of 4, 5, 6, 7-run innings this year. And they put up a 7 spot against the Phillies in the 7th. Pat Burrell leads off against Moda in the 8th. Struck out twice and walked tonight, and he takes a fastball for a strike.
That's an 88-mile-an-hour changeup.
Momota clearly gets a ton of mileage out of that changeup. Comes right back with it, and Burrow fouls it straight down. 6'6", and when the Mets signed him, he was originally in the Mets organization, he was a shortstop. Would have been maybe the tallest shortstop ever.
Right up there with Billy Ullman, who was
Right.
6'5½".
The pride of Brown University. To David Wright, and he throws out Burrow, one away. So 1 out and nobody on. This season, your Tri-State Hyundai dealers and the WB11 team up to help kids strike out cancer. Every strikeout recorded by a Met pitcher will add $100 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. If you'd like to help, please call 212-305-1420 for more information.
Finishing for the Phillies, number 23,
Joe Thurston will bat for Jose Hernandez to give them a left-hand hitter against Guillermo Mota. Thurston started the game in left field last night and went 0 for 3. Thurston and Mota would have been together with the Dodgers for a couple of years. Thurston at one time looked like he was going to be the Dodgers' second baseman, but that never quite worked out. And he was a second baseman until, well, about a week ago. The Phillies needed somebody to fill in for them when Aaron Rowan went down, and they called up Thurston, who's already gotten a couple of starts in left field.
Oh,
One baseball and one celebration. 1 and 2 to Thurston. Treasure that kid. He may never catch another one. Foul balls are hard to come by.
it's like winning the lotto.
You know, I went to, I don't know, 500, 600 games as a fan in this ballpark. I caught one foul ball. It was with 2 outs in the 9th inning of a game against the Pirates. Bob Apodaca was pitching, and Rennie Stennett hit the foul ball. 1973, maybe 74, actually.
Rennie Stennett, great second baseman, had that 7-for-7 game against the Chicago Cubs.
Having a pretty good day if you get 7 at bats in a 9-inning game, much less 7 hits. And Mota strikes out Thurston 2 away.
Well, good fastball here inside, 95 miles an hour. After those 2 changeups, no chance.
Checking out the Toyota American League scoreboard. The Angels beat the Yankees again. The one team the Yankees can't seem to beat. Red Sox will try and take advantage tonight after getting shut out last night in Seattle. Minnesota leading Chicago again tonight. Twins took over the wild card lead by beating the White Sox last night.
Isn't baseball crazy? You watch the Yankees go into Boston. They look invincible. Win 5 straight over the weekend, and now 1-4 on this road trip.
To shortstop. And Reyes throws out Chris Costin. Another stellar 1-2-3 inning for Guillermo Mota. He's looked awfully good in his 3 outings as a Met. Mets up big time as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Mets trying to get even against the Phillies. Oliver Perez making his first appearance as a Met, and he held the Phillies hitless for the first 4 innings. Carlos Beltran got him some offense, and Perez continued to hop. But Ryan Howard ruined all that with a grand slam. Carlos Delgado got the Mets close, and then the Mets fashioned a big rally. 2-run double Green, 2-run double Chavez, 2-run single Woodward, a 7-run 7th, and the Mets cruising 11-5 as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Big crowd is Shea on a Saturday night. Mets will play one more with the Phillies tomorrow afternoon and then hit the road for a week as lefty Matt Smith takes over for his Philadelphia debut.
Well, Matt Smith, who came in the trade from the Yankees for Abreu and Lytle. He's got a good fastball, sweeping slider, and a changeup that he developed in the Yankee farm system.
And Beltran grounds the first pitch to Rollins. Overhand throw, 1 out. So 1 pitch and 1 retired by Smith, who still has not given up a run in the major leagues. 12 appearances, 12 innings, 4 hits, 8 walks, but no runs. Well, here's Delgado. He's had a huge night for the Mets in more ways than one. He hit a 2-run homer in the 6th, and he hit the sac fly to tie the game in the 7th. But the most important part about that play, the sac fly, was it was deep enough to get the other 2 runners moved to 2nd and 3rd, and that set the ball rolling on a huge inning.
It opened up that first base, so they walked David Wright. Sean Green had a chance to come up with a big hit, and behind 1-2 in the count, drove that ball over the head of Burrell.
So a 3 RBI night for Delgado. He now has 91 runs batted in for the year. Reyes, the igniter, got that big inning started for the Mets. He scored 2 more runs tonight. And, you know, we talked at the opening of the broadcast, Ronnie, about MVP candidates and about, you know, how the power guys always get the attention, and a guy like Reyes has to do that much more to be considered. But this lineup, when you think about it, it's really filled with MVPs. I mean, look at what Loduca has done. Look what Delgado has done.
You know what they've had? Beltran has probably been the one that's done it for the longest time. But different periods of the season, different pockets of the season, Delgado's hit like an MVP. David Wright earlier in the season hit like an MVP.
And then you throw in the intangible of leadership. And you think about guys, again, Delgado, Loduca, and what they've contributed in their first year with the new ball club. Hit to deep right field. Back goes Thurston near the wall, and he has just enough room to reel it in. And that ball was knocked down by the wind. That ball, when it left the bat, was gone. But the wind is blowing in from right field, and got just enough of it to keep it in the ballpark for Thurston to catch it.
Carlos doesn't know where to look because he just can't believe it. You can see by his reaction, he knew he got enough of it to be a home run, but not tonight with the wind blowing in.
Well, he's thinking to himself, last 2 balls I had to hit to left center. Maybe that was a better plan.
Got to hit the left tonight.
And Carlos looking a little sheepish. He was into his home run trot. Here's David Wright. He takes a strike.
And he'll be kidded on the bench. Guys will go, hey, no more power, huh?
Well, sometimes you just can't fight the elements. It actually feels a lot more like an early May night than a late August night here at Shea tonight. A little bit of chill in the air with that wind blowing in. Wright is 0 for 3 and an intentional walk. 2-1 from Matt Smith. Here's today's Pitcher's High Speed, brought to you by Verizon Online DSL, now at a great low price. Toward the hole, Rollins on the backhand. Can he make a play? And he does so brilliantly. Wow. Oh, man, what a play by Jimmy Rollins. On his knees, pops up and throws out David Wright. That's a spectacular play by Rollins to end the inning. Mets go out 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 8th. They've got a 6-run lead heading into the 9th.
Ready, go.
9th inning at Shea Stadium. Guillermo Mota, who pitched a 1-2-3 8th, will try and finish off the Phillies. Abraham Nunez will lead it off. And he pops up the first pitch. Reyes takes charge. 1 pitch, 1 out. DW 11. 1 out in the 9th. And David DeLucci will pinch hit for the Phillies. And a broken bat liner right to Delgado. And on 2 pitches, Guillermo Mota has 2 outs in the 9th. Bat shattered, out recorded. That's a lot of shards. Like lawn darts.
Shortstop, Jimmy
Fly
Rollins.
doobie. Shattered. Shattered.
So Moda's faced 5 batters, retired them all on just 13 pitches. And Jimmy Rollins, the final hope for the Phillies. Rubber game tomorrow. John Maine for the Mets. Jamie Moyer in his second Phillies start goes for Philadelphia. There's a strike to Rollins. Let's saw Moyer in Seattle. Was it last year? Jamie Moyer, 43 years old. And now Moda 1 strike away from ending this one.
When Jamie Moyer pitches, you can just turn the radar gun off. But he's still a viable pitcher. Gets some outs.
Turn back the clock. Turn off the radar gun. 47,019 here at Shea, waiting for the final strike. Just misses. 1-2. Phillies have had only 4 hits tonight. They had a 5-2 lead, though, after Ryan Howard's grand slam, but the Mets fought back. 2 in the 6th, 7 in the 7th, and they're poised for the win. Struck him out, and the ball game is over. 2 perfect innings for Guillermo Moda as he stakes his claim to a spot in that Mets bullpen. Andy Chavez with a 4-for-4 night to lead the charge. Mets with a 7-run 7th. Sean Green with his first big hit as a Met. The 2-run double that put the Mets in front to stay. Carlos Beltran tonight with his 200th career home run. And Carlos Delgado added a 2-run homer of his own and a sacrifice fly in the Mets' 11-5 win. So the Mets win it to get even in the series with the Phillies and get back to 30 games over 500. Back to Shea in a moment. Let's take a look at our Lexus line score. The Mets with that 7-run 7th inning blow away the Phillies 11-5. A couple of huge hits in that 7th inning from Sean Green and Andy Chavez.
Well, after Rick White couldn't get anyone out, Aaron Fultz came in on a 1-2 pitch, gave up this double to Sean Green as he gets his RBIs for the Mets. And then Andy Chavez that went 4-for-4 every day. Andy Chavez with a big hit over the right fielder's head. Hernandez, 2 more runs scored.
Willie Randolph calls Eddie Chavez his Wishnick, and he was every bit the Wishnick tonight for the Mets as they win at 11-5 for their 79th win of the year. Back with more from Shea in just a moment. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Jeep. Check out the #1 selling brand of SUVs in the Northeast. By T-Mobile, get more minutes, more features, more service. By your Tri-State Volkswagen dealers. Visit tristatevw.com. By Washington Mutual. Stop by and experience the WAMU way. And by Audi. It's greater to lead than follow. Let's take a look at our Jeep game summary tonight. Mets win at 11-5. The Carloses homer in the same game for the 10th time this season. For Beltran, the 200th of his career. Sean Green snapped a 5-5 tie with a 2-run double in that 7-run 7th after Ryan Howard had given the Phillies the lead with his league-leading 46th home run of the year.
And starting pitcher for the Mets today, Oliver Perez, 4 hitless innings, and just ran into that trouble with Ryan Howard.
So the Mets win at 11-5 to get even in the series. We'll be back to wrap it up from Shea in just a moment. Well, here at Shea, the Mets defeat the Phillies 11-5. Oliver Perez made his Mets debut tonight, and he pitched 4 hitless innings before he ran into trouble. Tomorrow, on the WB 11, our next Mets telecast at 1 o'clock when the Mets play the rubber game with the Phillies. Now stay tuned for Everybody Loves Raymond, already in progress. Ryan Howard with a grand slam for the Phillies, but the Mets fought back. They juggled their way back into the ball game. Delgado with a 2-run homer and then a 7-run 7th to win it for New York. Now for Ron Darling and Chris Cotter, I'm Gary Cohen saying so long from Shea Stadium.